back with a new video that I'm very happy to bring to you guys at home. We're going to do a little bit more in-depth video regarding the Marsh Ink, the new Marsh that we got in. Well, the new old Marsh, if you will. Now, I've had a lot of questions about mixing, putting in different markers and stuff like that. So let's go ahead and break down some of that stuff here real quick. Perfect start right here, the Pixo. Now, for those who don't know, the Pixo is one of my favorite markers. It's a uni-style marker. And right now we have a little bit of Steve Garvey, right here, some Steve Garvey, and a little bit of black marsh mixed in with this marker. So it's probably, well, you know, it's not the most scientific. Look at this thing. This dumpster's so beat up. We've been through a lot, me and this dumpster. So it's not very scientific. I put maybe about 3/4 marsh and about 1/4 Garvey. You can mix and match that as your needs, suit you. The nice thing about Garvey is it does bleed through, and I don't know if it's showing here. Do you mind coming around here real quick, Vivian? Say hi to Vivian. She's helped me out with the videos today. This is the Steve Garvey right here bleeding through. This dumpster was just buffed with white, and the black of the marsh was buffed over, but the dye pushes through the buff to give you an extra run. And that's what's really great about using these type of inks, because the marsh gives you that nice UV resistance. You know, the Marsh ink is very durable. It's the best ink to sit in the sun as far as inks go. It won't fade for many years, but if you buff over it, it won't bleed through quite as much because it doesn't have the dyes. The Steve Garvey does that trick. Now, let's go ahead and take a look at it really quick here. When you want to fill it up, it's very easy. You just take this off right here. It's a lefty-loosey, righty-tighty, which I think is a much better way to go than some markers. They're the other way around. And we just pour a little bit of marsh. Let's get this. Make sure you wear gloves. Make sure you are outside because you will make a mess, and it is quite on the stinky side. Look at all these white marshes. Where's my black? Okay, here's the black right here. Make sure you shake it. Now, the marsh actually mixes together pretty well on its own, but definitely shake it for your own sake. You just never know, because these are all hand poured, and you may get a different pour than someone else. So just make sure you get it all nicely shaken, ready to go. We'll pour some marsh in here. Look at that. That's so beautiful. Now we take the Steve Garvey right here. Add that to it. I think I've overfilled this marker. I can see it already. It's gonna spill everywhere as I screw it on, but that's part of the fun. Watching a GR video, watching him make his messes here. Or did I get lucky? Oh, I got lucky. Well, a little bit spilled out. That's okay. All right, see, remember kids, graffiti's messy. If you go out there painting, you're gonna get paint on your clothes. So remember, don't tag in your Krispies. All right, so let's go try this little bad boy out here real quick. I'll pass through here, Vivian, sorry about that. Now I was gonna start with mops today, but you know, like all GR videos, I just kind of get on a tangent and forget what I was gonna do anyways, and we're just gonna test it out and see how it works here. Remember, this is Marsh and Steve Garvey. Oh man, that's beautiful. Flows together really nice. Of course, you can use the classic Garvey if you like to as well. And again, it goes on black with a little bit of a purple hue in it. But once you buff it, this Garvey will bleed right through and give you a second run. And that's really what you're looking for. You know, you're fighting, as a graffiti writer, you're probably the most oppressed person in a society, really, because everybody hates you. Not me. I love you guys. You know, you got the cops after you, you got business owners after you, you got your parents after you, you got, you know, just general heroes after you, and they're all trying to get you down, and you're just trying to get up. You know what I'm saying? And you gotta use any tool in your power to make sure you can fight against that. And that's one thing I really love about graffiti is, you know, you could be from any walk of life, and you are hailed by your exploits, if you will. So make sure you get the tools you need to do it, and you'll be quite successful at it. So as you can see, mixing that Steve Garvey with the marsh creates a really nice combo. It flows really nice, and it bleeds through, and it's a classic combo. So let's move on to the next ones. Steve Garvey, Marsh. Now, what's in this mop or marker? Oh, you know what? This is a prototype. I can't show this to you guys yet, so you're just gonna have to wait on that one. Sorry, guys. Okay, so why don't we do this? You guys have seen the regular black marsh. You've now seen the Steve Garvey with it. Let's go ahead and mess with some white marsh. Now, I don't have an empty Pixo with white. Oh yeah, that's right. I forgot about this bad boy. I did have one right here. GR, maybe you should make some notes next time. So what's in this marker is white marsh with a little bit of Pilot ink. Now you could add Steve Garvey to it if you'd like to as well too. But let's go ahead and take a look at it. And as you can see, I've made quite a mess with this marker. And it works just the same. You know, you just take your white marsh, pour it in here. And if you want, I can do a little illustration of that real quick here. Illustrate my point by doing it. Oh man, that is so beautiful. So again, this had Pilot ink in it. We're gonna add a little bit of white marsh. Now the white marsh, for those who don't know, is a xylene-based solvent ink, just like the black. And its consistency, I would say, is very similar to the Pentel Shorty. So if you've used the Pentel Shorty, this ink is very similar. Like many of these xylene white inks, they need to flow through a nib, so it won't be quite as opaque on the surface as you would see with a water-based white ink. It does look a little bit more translucent, but that's the way it's supposed to work, so it flows through the nib. Now, if you want a little bit more opacity and a little bit more stain, then you go ahead and add a little bit of those stainers to it like this. You know, drop a couple of drops in there. This has Pilot and Garvey in it, so that should be very interesting. Now think about this. Pilot ink, Magic ink, Steve Garvey, Flow Pen ink. You should be able to mix all these into your Magic ink. And think of all the color combinations, you know. You can make like a crazy like orange or whatever, you know. You just use that white base with your dye ink and you got something very special. So let's go ahead and test it here real quick. So obviously on the white surface here, just do a quick little test here. So that's the Marsh Pilot ink and Steve Garvey mixed together. You got that nice flow, you get some decent opacity, and I guarantee you if they try to buff this, it's gonna have a hard time running through it. In fact, maybe after we're done, we'll buff this out, and in a future video, you guys can see how it bled through. Let's try it on this dark surface over here, just to see what's going on here. As you can see, on a dark surface, you're still able to get those rights. Very cool. Pretty groovy, guys. That's the beauty of Marsh. You know, a lot of those alcohol-based inks, they work great in your marker. They don't make your marker suck up, and you know, they don't smell quite as bad, but they just don't write nearly as good as these xylene inks do. They just cover on the surface. When it comes to actually putting the pen to the surface, there's really nothing as good as a xylene ink. And that's why we need to preserve them, because as a graffiti artist, we need these tools. All right, so let's move on to the next one. Very, very cool stuff. So, blocking, I need to face the camera, not be away from it. So why don't we go ahead and put some in a mop? Because that's what I want to show you guys. The white Marsh ink. Let's see, this one's open. Man, graffiti is so messy, guys. Look at this. Don't tag in your Crispies. Okay, so let's go ahead and put some white Marsh in a drip mop. ArtPrimo drip mop. One of my favorite markers out there. I hope you guys are having a good day today. Hope you had a good weekend out there. I had a fantastic weekend, actually. Went to go paint some trains all by myself. You know, I remember watching this video. I think it was like a World Industries video back from the 90s. What was it? I don't remember. I think it was because Mike Vallely, he skated for Powell and then World Industries. They had this interview with him, and he talked about like people who go skateboarding by themselves versus people who only skate with a group, you know, and he kind of separated those two people as one is being more committed than other. And I think there's definitely some truth to that, you know, because when you get into graffiti, you'll often find these kind of hanger-on people that get into the crew, you know, they go to all the parties and stuff like that, but when it comes to going on a real mission, they're not around to be found. You know what I'm saying? Like, where are those guys at? I used to go to bed at 8 o'clock at night, like early bird, and I'd wake up at 3 in the morning and go bombing. Now that's dedication. And I do it still. Anyways, let's go ahead and take a look here. So this is the white Marsh on a dark surface, just so you guys can see here. It's still very opaque, but you can still get some kind of translucency here in the ink. But the reason why is the Marsh has to be able to flow through a fiber nib really well. Wow, look at those drip qualities right there. Oh my God, that is so beautiful. You could just crush a wall and just drip down over everybody else and just be a real butthole. But man, that looks so nice. Oh, I love white Marsh. It's one of my favorite inks. And again, you can put this in a Pentel Shorty. So if you have a Pentel, I'll write it here just so you guys can remember. If you got a Pentel Shorty, this marker will definitely write on there for you. And again, this is a xylene-based ink for professionals only. Man, look at that go. It's so beautiful. And it will get your mop kind of shrunk over time. But here's one thing to look at here. This mop is when we first got our shipment of Marsh in. And the nib is still juicy. It writes fine. You can see it's shrunk in a little bit. It just kind of depends. But you know, these aren't meant to last forever. You could always put a new nib in it if you have an issue. But again, this has had Marsh ink in it for, oh gosh, I don't know, probably about a month. There's barely any left because the marker is almost empty, but we really used it pretty hard. And let me just do the word test here. As you can see, it still writes fine. There's just not a lot of ink left in the marker to write with. This one right here is just as old. It's also kind of empty. It's fine when it's not completely empty here. It's all from the same batch here. My best advice for you with dealing with xylene inks like Marsh is use it or you'll lose it. And this is only when it pertains to plastic mops and stuff like that. If you're going to be using this stuff, don't just use it once and then put it on a shelf in the window where it dries out in like a little while. You know what I mean? If you're using this mop like once a week, you shouldn't have any issues with the nib drying up because you're always refreshing it and it doesn't give it a chance to dry out. This also is dependent on where you live, actually. I've noticed some people who live in the desert seem to have more problems. Maybe it's because it's more arid there. There's less rain. It's more humid here. Could be something to do with that. It's hard to say. But I will say this. When it comes to actually putting the ink on the surface, you'll never find a better ink than something xylene-based. The Marsh ink just does it for me. It does it for anybody who's serious about their artwork. Professional artists will also agree with me on that one. So, we've looked at the white Marsh, we've looked at the black Marsh, we've ran them through markers, we've ran them through mops, but we didn't physically put dye in a mop with white Marsh, and I think we should do that right now. That way you guys can see how it goes. So again, this is white Marsh. Oh, should have the branding out, right? Got to rep the set. Let's go ahead and put some Garvey in here. There we go. Ah, she is a thing of beauty, isn't she? Put a good amount in there, you know what I mean? Let's just go for it. Let's give her. Okay, put this bad boy on. Just gonna send it, bro. All right, so I can tell right now this is gonna be really juicy. Look at that though, isn't that pretty? How the purple's kind of like, you got these little veins of purple going in there. Just slowly bleeding into it. Oh my goodness, look at that. That's what I call a mop. All right. So as you can see, we got a really nice shade of lavender. Kind of reminds me of Grimace from McDonald's. How does Grimace look? He's kind of like this. And they got that new Happy Meal for adults, right? So Grimace has like 2 sets of eyes. We should do a review of the Happy Meal. I don't think that looks anything like Grimace, but I like it. All right, let's go ahead. Do a little tag here. Oh my God, that's beautiful. Look at that. Oh, that looks really nice. All right, let's go over here in the dark side over here. Let's just tag over this. Look at this. It's writing right over it, and it's not even bleeding in. Nice. Let's go over here. Let's see what else we got going on the opposite side. Let's give this a little bit more of a shake. Let's test it up here. Gotta love that xylene, guys. You gotta love that xylene. All right, let me just do a big GR tag and just squeeze the hell out of it. Oh, that's beautiful. Oh, yeah. That's what I call heaven. Okay, so I think we've gotten everything kind of covered here. You guys just kind of see that with the Marsh ink, you have a lot of different possibilities. You know, for example, like the OTR Soul Tip paint is a really nice paint. It's great for the price, but it doesn't flow through the nibs of markers quite as well as some other inks do. I think what it is the pigment size is a little bit larger, so sometimes they kind of clog up in the nibs a little bit. But they work great in a mop. They're fantastic in a mop, and you can get them to write through markers, but not like you can with the Marsh ink. There's just so much more flow and so much more capability with the Marsh. And that's what you get with a professional product. So if you have any questions, just comment below. Let me know what you guys think about this video. Hopefully I covered everything that you wanted to see. What do you think, Vivian? Did I cover everything or did I miss anything?
I think you got it.
Think I got everything here? Okay. All right, so I guess we'll just close out this video, and hopefully I don't fall over this time. And I just want to say thanks for watching, and see you soon. Peace.